Hey everyone, today I interviewed Nicole Lauren. She's a photographer, attorney, and business coach. She's also the founder of Legally Creative and Styled Event and self-started podcast. Nicole and I actually met at a conference earlier this year and stay connected, and it's been fun to watch her continue to grow her business with a lot of intent. We have a similar story coming from a different profession and diving into the creative world and going into photography. And we shared a little bit of how we dealt with people's criticisms and skepticisms when it came to going from what is seen as a stable profession and going into something less stable. And note, I am making quotation marks with my hands here as I say stable and unstable. So we shared a little bit of our experiences during that transition. Nicole also talks about the myth of the need of having a big following to be able to monetize when it comes to Instagram and YouTube. She talked about some strategies that she uses to make money. And she also talks about the idea of defining your own success and making sure that you're prioritizing the connections in your business and really defining what you want it to be like when you see that successful business in your mind. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. It was a great conversation. So let's dive in. Welcome to the Accidental CEO podcast, where we bridge the gap between the creativity you love and the CEO mindset you need. I'm your host, Nada Salvatore, wedding photographer and business educator. Find full show notes and resources at accidentalceopod.com. Let's get into today's episode. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Accidental CEO podcast. Today, I have a very special guest with me today. She's a new friend, somebody who I met at a conference earlier this year, and I'm very excited to have her on the show. So, Nicole, welcome to the show. She's a photographer, attorney, and business coach. She's also the founder of Legally Creative, the Styled Event, and Self-Starter podcast. Welcome to the show, Nicole.
Thank you so much, Nada. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you for having me. I mean, it's such a pleasure to see you again from the conference. I feel like that was such an amazing experience, and meeting you there was so fun. So thank you so much for having me on the podcast. Yes, I'm Nicole. I'm a photographer and attorney, which people are like always confused when they hear me say that, but it's such a cool mix of things, and I love it so much. I am also a business coach. So I just launched my very first mastermind program last month, and I'm really excited to get started on that. But I've been coaching creatives for a couple of years now. So that is really where my passion is. And that's really where Creative Educator Conference kind of came in for me. But I'm so excited to be here. I have my own podcast, like you said, but I am just starting to get into guest podcasting and things like that, and having guests on my show. So I'm excited to have you on my show. So yes, thank you so much for having me.
And you have a very interesting story, like you alluded already. One that I definitely identify with, because coming from a healthcare world, having a doctorate degree and then choosing to go into photography was definitely something that raised a few eyebrows for some people around me. So can you share the moments that you realized that transition from law school to wedding photography was the path that you wanted to take?
Yes, absolutely. So I started my business back in college, and I was like, the humble beginnings, right? Of like the Word document flyers. I would post them all around my campus at college, and I would do senior photography, and they would be like $50 a pop. And I'd get like groups of girls that would just be so excited, like sorority girls. So that's kind of how I started photography. I was in college, and it was very, very humble. And I continued my business through college, and then through my first like corporate job. And then around pretty much that summer after I graduated college, I decided law school is for me. So I had been in mock trial and debate and things like that in high school. And I just always knew that I wanted to potentially be an attorney. And that was always the track. Like that was where I thought I wanted to go. And that's where I thought I wanted to be. And I really enjoyed law school. It was a great time. I have a very analytical brain, if that makes sense, which honestly, to a lot of people, it doesn't make sense because I'm very creative too. So it's like the two worlds. But all that to say, I kept up my wedding photography business because it turned into wedding photography after seniors. And I kept that up through college, and then after college, and then through law school. And it was always just a side thing. And I never really felt like it could be anything more than that. I always thought like the responsible thing was to get a 9-to-5 job and to just do what's what's expected of me, I guess, if that makes sense. And so after law school, I got a corporate job. I was a real estate attorney for a couple of years at a great firm. I loved it so much. I was managing a team of 5 at the time, and I had a great life. Like, it was a great job, perfect, like it was awesome. But I just always felt this tug of, if this was the last day that I spent on earth, which sounds so dramatic, but if this was the last day I spent on earth, would I be so stoked about how I spent it? And I remember thinking, like, no, it's not. It's not what I want to be doing. I'm tied to a job. I'm not able to show up for my family like I need to. I'm not able to show up for myself like I need to. I'm neglecting like some health things and some family things. And so I just remember thinking, I got to a breaking point actually, where I came home and I was just crying. And like I said, life was great. Like, it was an awesome life. But I was like, something needs to change. And I don't think this is like the right path. And my husband was like, okay, we can make this work. Like, why don't you just put in your 2 weeks notice and we'll make this work? And so it was very, very scary. But it was like, I had to kind of get to that point to say, okay, I'd rather bet on myself and have this time freedom of my own business and be able to make as much as I want and not be tied down to someone else's like expectations or limitations for me. And that's kind of the point. That was about 2 years ago. And so that was the point where I really just kind of hit, yeah, kind of like a breaking point, but like that sounds negative, but it's really not negative. It was like it was a good breaking point, if
A
that makes sense.
pivot point.
Yeah, a pivot point. There you go. Yeah, exactly.
Thank goodness for supportive spouses, huh?
Yes,
It makes
so
such a
true.
huge difference. I hear stories from people that took the sleep like we did and just didn't have that kind of support at home. So I know I'm always very, vocal about how grateful I am for my husband's support and everything that he has done for me. Definitely could not do what I do right now if he wasn't the one that said, you have never done anything in your life that you were not successful in. Why do you think this will be different? Like, you are successful, everything that you do, you give 110%. This is going to be the same. And I was like, thank you. That's what I needed to hear. So that's great. How did you navigate the initial reactions or maybe even some skepticisms of some friends or family members when you decided to pivot your career from law into photography?
Yeah, this is a big one for me. So even while I was in law school, so I kept, obviously my wedding photography business on the side while in law school. So it was, very much analytical and reading cases and arguing and all that during the week. And then on the weekends, I would go and I would shoot weddings. And that's how I paid my way through law school. So it was just like very, very two different things. And I remember a couple people at law school either talking about me to someone I knew and then they told me about it, or someone just talking to me directly to my face. There were two things I remember. One person told me that someone else had said, like, why is she here? Like, what is the point? Like, why is she even here? And then someone else said to me, like, you don't love this, right? Like, photography is like your real passion, isn't it? And I just remember thinking, like, feeling like I was so confused and like I was confusing others. And inside my heart, I was like, no, I do. Like, I love both of these things. And it just wasn't like making sense or clicking for people. And looking back, I get it now, because when I meet someone and it doesn't make sense, obviously I'm going to like have questions, right? And being an attorney and being a photographer, objectively, like, if you're not inside my brain, objectively, that does sound like a little strange,
Yeah.
So I just, what has happened though since then? So since quitting my full-time job as an attorney about 2 years ago, I've also been met with skepticism. So I shared about this recently on another podcast, but I went to a funeral and it was for a family member of a family member. So it was not anyone I was really close to. So someone that I didn't know came up to me and we were chatting, and she was like an older lady, and she came up to me and she was like, what do you do? And I'm like, I'm a photographer. And then someone else that knows me kind of chimed in. And this is what usually happens. I'll usually introduce myself as a photographer. And then if someone knows me nearby, they'll be like, and she's also an attorney. And then that's when the conversation like starts getting rolling. But this lady looked at me, and when someone said she's an attorney, and she was like, why did you do that? Like, and she was so confused and very like judgy.
Yeah.
And she's like, why did you quit your job? And I just looked at her straight in the face and I said, because I make more money now. And she just stopped talking after that. So it's funny to like see the progression of my confidence, I guess, in myself, and see that, first of all, it doesn't matter what people think. And I've gotten to a place where I just kind of have realized that making sense to everyone is not my highest purpose. That's not my goal in life. And like to your listeners, I would encourage you guys to just know that you fitting into a box or making sense to someone is not your highest goal. And that's actually going to hold you back from doing the things that you're put here on this earth to do. And then also, another thing that I've gotten really good at and tried to grow in is not explaining myself, not justifying myself or explaining myself. So if I am introduced to someone and they ask what I do, I just boldly say I'm a photographer, an attorney, and now a business coach. And I kind of just, I'm comfortable with the pause after that. And I just kind of let them think about it. And I don't follow it up with like, yeah, so I was a wedding photographer and then I went to law school and like kind of explaining myself.
Yeah,
And what I find is that when they are like, when I pause and when they sit with it, the steam kind of comes out of their head and they're like confused and they're trying to compute like what it is that I'm doing. But it's kind of like a fun game now. It's kind of like, oh yeah, I'm a mystery. So it's kind of like a fun thing that I've grown in. And yeah, I think explaining yourself, justifying yourself isn't necessary.
absolutely. First of all, who has time to be explaining everything to everybody? Because
Yeah,
God
so
knows
true.
we had our reasons why we made certain decisions. Whether they're right or not at that time is, it's what it is, and it's like learning the ability to when somebody invites you to dinner and you can't go, you can just say, "I'm sorry, I'm not available."
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that can be a period at the end of the sentence, and nothing needs to come after that. You have no obligation to explain or justify anything to anybody. If you're willing to answer questions, you can let them ask their own questions, which is fine. But I go through the same thing often. Funny enough, I didn't have a lot of that when I actually quit and changed professions, or nobody at least said it to my face. They did. I always tell people I'm 6'2" and I can be scary, so rarely people say things to my face. But
You are very tall. Yes, I
anyway,
remember that.
yeah, so I didn't get any of that. I'm sure there were conversations that happened behind my back or around me that I just didn't hear it. But what I recently experienced, which is a similar story to yours, I went to see a foot doctor because I got an injury during a wedding that I was photographing. And this is a doctor that I used to work with very closely. I was a physician liaison in my company, so all the physicians in town know me very well, have their cell phone numbers. I was the go-to for problem solving when it came to patients. So I went to see this doctor, and he's like, "I haven't seen you in a while. Like, what are you doing?" And I told him, like, I am a wedding photographer now. I've left healthcare. And he just looked at me and he's like, "But you were really good at what you did." And I looked back at him and I said, "And I'm really good at what I do now too."
I
And
love
I
that.
travel all over the world with my couples. So he got super curious. So he's asking me questions and he's like, "This is so amazing. That's exciting." But it was just that initial like, why? Why did you do that? Because people don't understand kind of income and freedom you can have with photography. And to be honest, I didn't either. I didn't think I was going to make as much money as I make now and have the freedom that I have now. And you hear about it and that's what you hope, but not in a million years I ever imagine I could surpass in times several times the kind of income I had with a doctorate degree. So, we are here as proof that it can be done.
100%. And I would also add to that, I think it's perfectly okay for people to have like that reaction, because it
Yeah.
makes sense that like he's confused. But I think the differing point is, you know, I was in the past letting that confusion from others inhibit me from what I could do. And I always just thought like, yeah, that would never make sense. I'm always just going to do what's expected or what people think. And it was when I decided that no, it doesn't have to be that way, that's when it was freeing. So it's almost like, now I welcome like those kind of conversations. I kind of welcome them because they're kind of fun. It's like, yeah, and then people, you're almost giving other people permission to do something out of the norm too, because you said like that doctor was curious, and he's like, oh, like how does that even work? And so it's almost you're almost helping other people expand their knowledge base and their awareness, which is kind of a cool thing. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. So, talking about the self-doubt and the challenge that came with the change, was there a specific, like, pivotal time that you can remember that was like, okay, this is a time where I'm going to start saying this and I'm done with being confused about it and I'm done with explaining? Can you remember that time for you?
I think so. When I quit my job was definitely a pivotal moment for me. But I was also met with a lot of anxiety during that time because I had believed for so long that this could never work as a full time thing. And so after I quit my job, I kind of struggled with like the anxiety of like, is this actually going to work or am I going to look like a fool that I just quit my job? And obviously it worked and it's great. And I've, matched my attorney salary in 4 months and like all these things. It's great. But at the beginning, I was still very hesitant and unsure, as with any new season, I think. But I really do think about a year ago when that incident happened at the funeral, and then like around in that same kind of week, I had someone from like one of my mom's old friends like ran into me at the mall, and she was like, "Oh, I've talked to your mom, and she said you're an attorney, or you're a photographer now, not an attorney anymore." And she kind of was like looking at me like weird, and I had gotten like a string of questions like all in one week. It was like literally March of last year, and that was kind of like I would say the turning point because I started being like, it's honestly okay that people are confused, but I don't have to adopt that. I don't have to absorb that. I can be both and I can be unapologetically like who I am. So I would say like probably as mundane as it sounds, like that string of questions like literally a year ago, I think was probably one of the big turning points.
Yeah, and people also don't understand how much of your skills you can use everywhere, right? So we talked about that on the last episode I recorded with another guest, but there's so many transferable skills and things that you can do and continue to do. You have a ton that you can definitely use in the coaching arena and the photography arena. I actually last weekend was shooting a wedding, and the groom's sister sprained her ankle, got injured during the wedding. I was able to let my second shooter take over and tend to her, examine her. I actually carry her ace wrap and stuff with me, so I'm like
That's
took care
amazing.
of her, I bandaged her, and like got her to where she needed to be. And they were just so mind blown that I was able to do all of that, and because then it's because of my training that I had before. So you never know. There's so many things you can do. They can bring from your past experiences into your current job, and there's amazing transferable skills and opportunities. You don't have to be limited to do things the way that you think you need to do. So
I totally agree. And I'm still an attorney, so I still have that on the side. And so people that are in South Carolina, I help actually small business owners now. So it's super cool. Like it's a great way to give back. And then I have a contract template shop, which is like nationwide. But it's so cool to be able to be like a liaison between the creative and legal worlds because I feel like we don't have a ton of that. And before I was an attorney, I remember thinking how scary it was to start a business or how scary it was to get my contract in place. And when you go to attorneys, it's very much like legalese and kind of like up here. And I can speak for attorneys because I am an attorney, but like we tend to make things more complicated than they need to be. And it's cool. It's been really cool to be able to take both the creative and legal side and help others, which has been really awesome. So yeah, 100%. I agree. The skills, but even the skills from going to law school helped me as a wedding photographer too.
So I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about, following and being successful in monetizing things. So many people really think that having a large following is essential for success in the digital content creation. How have you proven this theory wrong, and what advice do you give to others kind of looking to monetize their small audience?
I have kind of a personal story around this, and it is nothing like crazy or like this huge, monumental thing, but it's just a small way to show that you don't need a crazy following to be able to make money passively. So this past November, my dog passed away, my dog of 8 years. So it was a really, really hard, tragic. He got hit by a car. So it was just like a very tragic
Sorry.
situation. Yes, thank you. So it was like one of those things where life kind of took over and my business had to take a backseat because I was very upset. There was a lot of like just emotions going on. And I'm sure you maybe have had, something similar or like a personal thing come up where it just, your business is so personal that like it requires a lot of your attention and a lot of your emotions. And when something big happens like that in your life, it's hard to kind of, juggle both. So I intentionally kind of took a step back in my business for a couple weeks. Like I think it was 10 days. And I was working here and there, but it was very much like I was trying to get out of the house because he was always home. And so I was like trying to get out of the house and distract myself, right? So up until that point, though, I had started a YouTube channel back in July. And up until that point, I'd been posting once a week, and I had affiliate links for different products that I like to use that I promote to other people that also gets me a kickback. But I always promote things that I actually use and that I actually love. But in that span of that week, I think I clocked like maybe 2 hours of work, right? And it, nothing crazy, right? But I in that span of 10 days, I ended up making over $1,000 in just passive income. And it's not like a, six-figure number or like a 10K or anything like that, but literally working 2 hours in my business, I had set up, it was mostly from YouTube videos, right? And my YouTube channel was like maybe 100 followers or subscribers at the time, right? So nothing crazy, right? But I made over $1,000 in passive income in just 10 days. And if I was working a 9 to 5 and I took off 2 weeks of my 9 to 5 corporate job, I would not be making $1,000 in 10 days. Like it's just, it wouldn't be true, and it was such a testament, even just that small little like situation. It was such a testament that long form content, first of all, is king. And it is, for me, what I found is the least exhausting and most fun. I don't know if everyone would agree with me, but I have really found long form content is the way to go because it has such a long life cycle. So, YouTube videos that I made 6 to 8 months ago are still working for me even now and making me passive income right now. And it's not like a hamster wheel of Instagram where it's like I have to figure out new content every 24 hours because it dies after I post. And then the other thing is I have a great, strong email list. So I just launched my mastermind program. I have probably a list of maybe 600 creative business owners. My list as a whole is like around 1,000 right now, but some of those are brides. So I'd say of those, it's about 600 creatives. And I had nearly a 10K mastermind launch this past week with 500 followers, like over 500 subscribers. So it really is less about all the things that people tend to preach about. Like you need to grow your Instagram following. And like, it's a very much Instagram focused vanity metrics type of system where I think Instagram is a part of it. It's a tool that's really great to be used in a grand scheme of other things. And so what my focus is in my business with having a small audience is YouTube and then my email list. And both of those have been huge in getting passive income, in promoting myself. And it's because those people that are on both of those platforms tend to be really bought in and very invested. So it's not about the quantity of leads on those platforms, it's about the quality of the leads. So yeah, that's a little bit of my story with that.
Yeah, there are people that came to you because they're interested in what you had to offer. So they're more willing to listen to, the content that you put out there, follow you, and be willing to purchase services and products from you for sure. What are some of the specific kinds of content or approaches that you feel like work well for you on your YouTube channel?
Yeah. So one thing I want to say about YouTube is and what held me back from starting YouTube for the longest time was because I thought I had to be like an influencer and show my personal life all over YouTube. And I was like, that doesn't sound fun. I tend to be a little bit more secretive. Like I definitely share a lot on my business Instagram page, but I'm very selective on like what I share about my personal life, if that makes sense. So I just could never really get behind, like I'd wanted to start a YouTube channel since 2020, but I could never really get behind all these like very personal vlogs and like videos and things like that. So when I finally did join YouTube about 8 months ago, I went into it with the very narrow focus of it being educational and business driven, because I knew that I wanted to get into education later on, and I wanted to provide that really good free value to my audience through YouTube before I started asking them to buy courses and things like that. So most of my videos are either tutorials about something, like some sort of product that I use or software that I use, like Thrivecart, for instance. I have a tutorial on that that's gotten a lot of traction. And then some of them, like I have done a couple day in the life vlogs of like a business owner. I've done like a home office tour, things like that. But most of it is more like educational. I'm teaching on a topic and I'm just sitting down like exactly where I am right now and teaching on a topic. And that's really what's helped me the most to grow on that channel.
Hey, wedding photographers and event planners. Say goodbye to time chaos with Timeline Pro. Our app turns your workflow into a breeze, letting you create and customize stunning wedding day timelines in minutes. Share them with clients and vendors for instant feedback, all within the app. No more endless emails and coordinating headaches. With our easy-to-use templates, shot list tracker, and sunset timings, your planning becomes as joyful as the events you're crafting. Dive into a stress-free planning experience and make every wedding a masterpiece. Download Timeline Pro now and transform the way you plan weddings and events. For more, visit timelineproapp.com. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people go to YouTube to learn something that they're maybe struggling with or stuck on and wanting to know more about. So a lot of those just how-to videos are, what get a lot of the views from the kind of service that we're providing. Obviously, there's a ton of entertainment on YouTube that you can go consume, but I feel like for the kind of service that we provide, the how-to videos are pretty good and can turn into some good content there for you. Yeah. So, in the context of your business, how do you define true success for you? And how has this perspective kind of influenced the way that you operate your business and make decisions?
This has really come up for me really since January, since going to the conference actually that we went to. I had really big goals for this 2024 year. And I already have a course, I already have some templates and products, but I wanted to grow my kind of passive income suite with more courses. And I was like, I'm going to do 4 courses this year, one per quarter. I'm going to record them all. And I was very like set on that going into that conference. And when I went to the conference, after talking to everyone and listening to the speakers, I kind of just like went a totally different direction, and God kind of just opened up my eyes to like, this is like a different path, and maybe this could be a great area for you. So that's actually more of the one-on-one and group coaching type thing. So instead of like putting out courses to the masses and like kind of trying to gain a lot of like students and things like that, really investing in like a small group and hearing their feedback. And that's where I found my passion and my excitement really lies, is when I get to be able to talk to people. So all that to say, I feel like I was kind of hearing from a lot of people like, hey, you need to make courses so you can scale your business. You need to make a shop so you can scale your business, so you can make passive income in your sleep and all these things. And I don't think that that's bad. And I think that that's eventually a great, if my whole business could be passive income, that would be awesome. But I do think I would miss that interaction, like the one-to-one interaction. And so what I guess I'm trying to say is I kind of had bought into that idea, like, okay, scale, 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 passive income, passive income. And then I was actually kind of taking a hard look at myself at the conference, and I realized, is that actually what success is to me? Is that actually what I want my business to look like? And it ended up really not being what it was that I wanted it to look like. And so that's kind of when I pivoted this year to offering more coaching and group programs and things like that. So one thing I'll say about this, and I've been telling my mastermind women about this too, as we've started recently, but there's so many people out there who want to teach you how to get to 6 figures, how to have 15K months, how to grow your following to 100,000 followers. All these claims are out there from a lot of different people, and we're constantly bombarded with these messages that we are not enough, we're not doing enough. We need to constantly be like hustling to achieve more. And while I think goals like that are great, like setting financial goals is a smart thing, right? And and reaching for more and hitting six figures, multiple six figures, I think that's a great goal. For me, what I realized is, what does success actually look like to me? Once I make multiple six figures, am I going to still be like really happy? Am I still going to have time freedom, or am I going to be working 80 hours a week? You know, what are the trade-offs that I'm willing to make? And so for me, it's like time freedom is a huge marker of success for me. That is what I think success looks like. Being able to have the freedom to do what I want when I want, being able to be there for my family. That is like my number one like success, right? And so kind of looking at success more holistically and saying, what do I want my life to look like? Not just my business, but what do I want my life to look like? And then building my business around that. And then saying, okay, money helps me do things, right? Money helps me feel more free. Money helps me, money, they say money doesn't buy happiness, but I think money can help you with happiness.
Yeah.
Um, so so money is not like evil, right? But at the end of the day, what do I need to have this life that I want? And that is really where it should start, and then making the goals based off of that. And so you're not just chasing after someone else's version of success, but it's your success. It's what you want. So yeah, that's kind of where it was like a crossroads this year.
Very good. Yeah, great lesson for all of us for sure. So, talking about profitability over popularity is a very strong statement in today's like social media driven world. Can you share how focus on profitability first might impact your business growth and your personal satisfaction?
Definitely. Yeah. So, kind of what I was talking about earlier with that kind of breakthrough I had at the conference earlier this year, when I was kind of focused on scaling, scaling, scaling. I remember we were in a small group with Hope Taylor. She was the group leader for my group at the conference, and I told her, I was like, up until this point, I don't think I was like shallow and only in it for the money, but I was like more of like, I was having a scarcity mindset, I guess you could say, of like, I just need more and more and more so I can feel safe and secure. And I think that has to do with popularity, with how much money you make. We always are going to want more, right? And so for me, it was kind of like I had that moment at the conference where I was like, I want my efforts in my business to first come from a place of being profitable. And what that means is not just that, I get a lot of money, right? It's that I'm profitable with my time, I'm profitable with my connections. Profitable money is part of it, but that I'm coming from a place of serving and really being sustainable rather than just being popular. So that's kind of the big distinction, is I don't think you necessarily have to be wildly popular, like I was saying before with that passive income in my small audience. I don't think I have to have 100,000, or I know I don't have to have 100,000 followers to be able to make six figures in my business, right? And if that's what I want, then why would I chase after a vanity metric that just shows that I'm popular if that's not actually bringing in profitable returns? If that's not actually bringing in the money that I want, if that's not actually bringing in the time freedom that I want. It's really, we can get so caught up in that number of like followers or subscribers or things like that, and it really doesn't always translate to profitability. So
I think we met a lot of people even at the conference itself to that prove the point that you don't have to have a huge following to be successful in your business. So hopefully people are understanding that concept more and more. If you cannot, and we had Shannon Bondi as a guest on the podcast, you guys should definitely check that episode. But she talked about, if you cannot sell to a small group of people, what makes you think you can sell to a very large group of people? Right? It's not so much the audience that you have available to you, but how are you selling? How are you defining your message? And how are you serving those people? So numbers are never going to translate into profitability for us for sure.
100%. And also, if your business is, like you were saying, if your business is built on serving, which is what I hope my business is built on, then you are going to pour 110% into your following of 100 people, and they're going to love you, and like you're going to get devoted people. And when you think about it, you don't really need more than 100 people to buy your stuff. Like it's you can make a good living getting 100 people to buy into you. Do you know what I'm saying? So I think we have to have like thousands and thousands of followers, but really if you get a devoted group that you're serving really well, you can be very profitable with that, you know?
So let's talk about time freedom a little bit more. Very significant indicator of success for a lot of entrepreneurs. How do you manage your time to ensure that you're not only running a profitable business, but also living life filled with freedom?
It ebbs and flows. I'm sure you can agree, Nada. Like my schedule can sometimes feel out of control, and then sometimes I feel like I'm on it. For me, a couple things that have helped with time. So I time track. I don't know. Do you time track in your business?
I tried in the past.
Okay. Okay.
I am if I just I was never like a list maker or a person that writes things down. I always felt like things like that would actually take away my time from actually doing things. Then so I tried. I did it for a while. I saw the benefit of it for sure. I still have Toggle here on my
Toggle. Yep.
computer, kind of looking at me every day and asking me to track. But I'm pretty good at organizing my time blocks, so I don't necessarily use that, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of those I am very much a list girl and an organizer. So it's definitely a personality thing. But I have found Toggle, the time tracking app, to be so helpful just in terms of like, I'll literally clock in. So, like right now, when we're talking, I have Toggle on right now in the background, just running. And it helps validate that I'm actually working. It also helps me stay on track to get more work done while I'm working because I know I'm on the clock. So, that's something that's really helped. Another thing that's really helped is setting like themes for my days. So I know that Mondays and Wednesdays are more internal business working days for me, and Tuesdays and Thursdays are usually when I like to schedule meetings and interviews and things like that. So having like themes for my days is really nice, although I'm not really strict on that. And then another thing, so I'm telling you, I'm not perfect at this, and this is definitely a work in progress, but I'm a very much like a night owl. And so I get a burst of energy like at night, right? And so I get real creative at night and I just want to like get in my comfy sweatsuit and like sit on the couch and pop on a Netflix and kind of work a little bit. And I think that's okay. Like, I think it's important to follow your creative energy. So if you're feeling like that and you're feeling like it's exciting for you and you want to work at night, I don't want to ever say you can't do that because I find joy in that sometimes. I usually don't like to do client work at night because that tends to stress me out if it's like something that's like due. I try to make sure to do that like during the day. But if it's something on my business, like ideas that I have, or I'm getting excited about something and I want to work on it, I will. But for the most part, I try to stop work at around 4:30 or 5 every day. And something that I like to do is turning everything off and just saying, I'm done, or like, it's done, and verbally saying that out loud, or like closing up, or like, all done. And then I literally close my office door and like just kind of, it's like a signal to myself that that's like the end. And I don't always do this, but I need to do it more. But it really does help saying that. So kind of has that distinction. So those are a few things: time tracking, theming your days, following your creative energy, and then stopping work and just verbally saying, I'm done.
Yeah, that's very good advice. I definitely do some time blocking and have some theme days too. I agree that that helps a lot. I had to become a list maker. I have lists now. It's not something I could run away from. I used to just have it all in my head. It's a scary place in
Oh
here,
my
but
goodness.
I can keep it all. Even though it's written down, I can tell you exactly what's on that list if you take it away.
Wow.
So I never wrote things down. I am not the type of person that gets satisfaction from crossing things off my list, but I definitely understand that. But I think having themes around your days really help. I know Mondays for me, I actually love Mondays. A
I do
lot of
too.
people when they have, different jobs hate Mondays. I love Mondays because that's, I usually had weddings over the weekend and it's a very heavy work day for me. And I absolutely love sitting on my computer and getting work done, working in my business. Love that. I recently started blocking Thursday mornings as my learning slash curiosity day. So I'm giving myself time to actually go explore things that I'm interested in that I don't have time for. And I'm making quotation marks here in the air because it's all about making the time that you want. So having the podcast has helped me realize that I was missing learning.
Yeah.
I'm sitting down with people now. I'm having conversations that are making me learn again. So I decided to start blocking that time to, go explore things that I maybe learned during the week. Maybe I got an email that was a little too long and I didn't want to focus on reading that, but there's something interesting there that I want to dive into a little bit more. So that goes into my learning curiosity list. Or maybe it's a podcast episode that I want to listen, or maybe there's a book that I want to go look into, or maybe there's this course that I think will be interesting, but I want to dive into a little bit more, or something outside of business. I just dedicating that time to learning and being curious about other things, I think is going to get me even more excited about working in my business and bringing new knowledge into what I'm offering. So 100% time blocking, organizing things, and tracking your time is huge when it comes to organizing and then leaving those times that you want it free. Having those empty spaces in your schedule, very important too. So looking back, what would you say has been the biggest lesson learned from building a business that really aligns with your personal definition of success rather than just following that conventional plan of being popular and being big and having everything?
Biggest thing I've learned so many things. I feel like being a business owner is like drinking from a fire hydrant. Like there's just it's like it's coming whether you like it or not. You got to learn it all. So, I think the coolest thing, like you were saying, Mondays are fun for you. And I would say Mondays are really fun for me now too. They were not fun when I worked a corporate job. They're really fun. But I think the coolest thing about being a business owner is your life can be what you want it to be. And you can also have like this unlimited potential of like reinventing yourself as many times as you want. You can serve really well. You can show up for people. And I think just being able to learn that you can be literally anything that's the biggest thing owning a business has taught me is like you can be anything. You can make as much as you want to. You can do whatever you want to, and you can also serve really well and make really great connections. And I would never have the opportunities that I have today without having my own business. And it's just been such a blessing that I'm so thankful for. So just kind of, I guess if anyone's out there who wants to own their business full time, maybe you're at a 9 to 5 right now, or you're feeling stuck wherever you're at, you're not seeing the results that you want maybe in your business. Just, I think, reminding yourself of why you got into your business in the first place and keeping that at the forefront. And just remembering like life is so beautiful and that you're able to do what you want when you want, and you're able to make really cool connections and get to know people better through owning a business. I think just reminding ourselves of that. That's a huge thing for me because business ownership can feel really daunting and sometimes scary and a little bit anxiety inducing at times. So reminding myself of, no, like this is a beautiful life. This is a cool thing that I get to do is really
Yeah.
awesome.
We'll tell everybody where they can find you if they want to follow you, learn more from you, and use your services.
Yeah, definitely. So you can find me over on Instagram. It's _ Nicole Lauren. I'll give Nada the link because my name is spelled with an H, so it's confusing. Also, you can find me NicoleLaurenPhotography.com. I have an educational shop on there. I have a course and some products on there in case you're interested in resources. I also have my Legally Creative contract template shop. So that's legallycreative.com. And I'm adding new things to that constantly. But right now, there's a lot of things for wedding photographers, portrait photographers, general service-based business owners, things like that. So if you're looking for a contract, that would be a great place to go. And yeah, Self-Starter Podcast is my podcast. Nada's about to be a guest on there as well, so you can find her on there. And then I have a YouTube channel. So would love to have you follow along. And thank you so much for having me, Nada. I appreciate it.
Thank you for coming to hang out with us. We'll link everything for you guys. I know you got a lot of great tips and strategies today. I'm so excited that Nicole came and hang out with us. I hope to see you guys next week for another episode of the Accidental CEO podcast. Bye. And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Accidental CEO podcast. Thanks for hanging out with us in the world where creativity and business strategy collide. I am Nada Salvatore, thrilled to have shared this time with you. Remember, every episode is a step closer to mastering the art of being an accidental CEO. So don't miss out. Hit subscribe, drop us a sweet review, and spread the word to your creative tribe. Your next big breakthrough could be just one episode away. Join us next time for more insights, laughs, and actionable tips. Keep pushing boundaries, dreaming big, and embracing the beautiful chaos of entrepreneurship. Here's to make magic happen in your business and beyond.